Hello and welcome. My name is Savannah, and today we will be exposing the dark side of Mr. Mortimer Goth. Mortimer Goth is, of course, one of the most well-known and iconic Sims in the Sims franchise, but he is also a man of mystery. Tragedy seems to strike many of those around him, and I am here to suggest that he may be the source. There is something evil under his charming facade. Today we will uncover what Mr. Goth is hiding. So, quick disclaimer, this is a bit of a silly theory that I came up with that is sort of far-fetched and kind of ridiculous, but it's all just fun. The world is kind of crumbling right now, and I just wanted to talk about something very silly this week. I consider this my sort of sans business theory, if you understand what I mean by that. So if you are ready to suspend your disbelief for a little bit, then without further ado, let's load into the Goth household. So first, let me give a little overview of Mortimer Goth's life, starting with his childhood, of course. Mortimer grew up in Sunset Valley from The Sims 3 and resided in the iconic Goth Manor with his parents Gunther and Cornelia Goth, and he grew up overwhelmingly rich. The Goths are the epitome of old money. In fact, their ancestors founded Sunset Valley, and their home was the first built in town. Mortimer was a smart and allegedly well-adjusted child, albeit a bit grumpy, a trait he inherited from both of his parents. He was also a very ambitious and rather artistically inclined child. Now, while on the outside he appeared to be growing up fine, the family's bio suggested that perhaps living down the street from the town graveyard was not the healthiest atmosphere for him to be growing up in. Additionally, the Goth Manor home also had a family graveyard on the lot. It seems like death surrounded Mortimer from a very young age. In fact, his name, Mortimer, means Dead Sea, and the prefix Morty in Latin means to die. And according to Wikipedia at least, Mortimer is a name sometimes given to the Grim Reaper. Not the one in The Sims, the one in real life, I suppose. I believe he grows up to live up to that name. Anyway, there is something interesting I want to note about the Goth Manor he grew up in. Aside from lights, there are zero electronics in the home, save for a single stereo in Mortimer's room. Now, I go in depth on why I think there are no electronics in the home in my Unsolved Mysteries of The Sims 3 video, but I'll give a short summary. There is a dead Sim named Lolita Goth in their family graveyard who died by electrocution. I believe she was Gunther's first wife, and when she was electrocuted by an electronic device, Gunther removed all electronics from the home and refused to ever allow them again. So if this is the case, why does Mortimer have this stereo in his room? I imagine he likely snuck it into the home and his parents had no idea it is there. This indicates that he was perhaps a rather rebellious young child. Perhaps he was not happy with the gloomy atmosphere he was growing up in, and became a bit defiant of his parents and their traditional ways. He has a decent relationship with his parents growing up, but perhaps he was growing to resent them in some ways. His father was a workaholic, probably spending more time working than nurturing young Mortimer, and while his mother was a stay-at-home mom, she was still a grumpy perfectionist, so likely not the most fun to be around. Regardless of all of this, how did he even get the stereo anyway? Perhaps he got it from a friend? Mortimer had a plethora of acquaintances as a child, but only one friend, and that was his best friend, a young girl who lived down the street named Bella Batchelor. As we all know, she ends up playing a large role in Mortimer's life and he in hers. So let's fast forward 25 years to his adulthood. He resided in Neighborhood 1 from The Sims 1 and lives with his childhood best friend and now wife, Bella, and their daughter, Cassandra. Mortimer appears to have grown out of his grumpy personality from his childhood, as he is described as cheerful and outgoing. Perhaps being away from his parents or not living so close to the town graveyard is much better for him. Despite being rather artistically inclined as a child, he seems to have taken up science and works as a test subject in the science career. He is now owner of the new Goth Manor, which is noticeably smaller than his previous residence in Sunset Valley. His household funds are relatively low, around 2,500 simoleons. He is of course not poor by any means, but not rolling in cash. Furthermore, the home furnishings are evidently more modern and look a lot cheaper than in the previous Goth Manor. Mortimer's parents, Gunther and Cornelia, are still alive and reside in Old Town. Perhaps this is why he is not rolling in cash right now. His parents are still kicking. They live in a rather large mansion and have over double his household funds. My headcanon is that they of course gave Mortimer a handsome chunk of change when he moved out, but he still has to work if he wants to have what they have, or wait until they kick the bucket. Now let's fast forward a final time to Mortimer's elderhood. At this point, the Goth family has both grown and shrunk. His daughter Cassandra has grown up and he has a new son named Alexander, but his beloved wife Bella is now missing and both his parents are dead. But on the bright side, the family resides in a new and improved Goth manor in Pleasantview, a town founded by Gunther Goth. It is believed to be Neighborhood 1/Old Town 25 years in the future. At this point, Mortimer is a recently retired mad scientist. Evidently, this new Goth manor is much larger, more expensive, and more lavishly furnished compared to its predecessor. Perhaps Mortimer saved up money as he progressed in his science career, or perhaps he got a large chunk of change from his deceased parents. But wait, what happened to the old Goth manor? Some suspicious things occurred in the 25 years between The Sims 1 and The Sims 2. This is where my theory comes in. Mortimer has been up to no good these past 25 years. This theory has two parts. First, I want to talk about the mysterious deaths of both of his parents. Despite them being elders in The Sims 1, neither of them died of old age. They both died in fires, separate fires. Strange, right? Gunther died first, and sometime after, Cornelia perished separately in a completely different fire. A very bizarre coincidence if you ask me. So what does this have to do with Mortimer? Well, Mortimer does have some seemingly random memories of a fire and some burned pork chops. Cassandra also has a memory of this same fire. It appears to have happened shortly before Alexander was born. A little bit after that, Gunther died by fire. Some may suggest that the two events could not be related, as there seems to be a gap in between the fire and Gunther's death, but I believe there to be an explanation for this. Now, a quick preface, this theory might be a little bit out of the realm of what is technically possible in The Sims, but again, this is just a creative theory, a fun story that I've come up with. So for a moment, let's forget about the confines of The Sims mechanics. So I believe this fire happened while Gunther and maybe Cornelia too were visiting Mortimer, Bella, and Cassandra. At this point, Bella has not disappeared yet and is currently pregnant with Alexander. Also, they are still residing at the previous Goth manor from The Sims 1, but the area has now been converted to Pleasantview by Gunther. Mortimer is cooking some pork chops for dinner for the family, but things hit the fan and a fire starts. Cornelia, Bella, and Cassandra hurry out of the home, while Mortimer and Gunther stay to start the fire. Unfortunately, Gunther catches on fire. After some time, Mortimer is able to tame the fire and extinguish Gunther. However, Gunther is badly wounded and is hospitalized. Yeah, this is where things get a little bit creative on my part. After some time, maybe weeks or months of being in the hospital, and after Alexander is born, Gunther dies from his injuries. Cornelia is devastated. Mortimer feels a bit guilty about the accident. However, he is not overwhelmingly sad, as he and his father were not the closest due to his father being such a workaholic. Goth Manor is damaged partially from the fire, and while Mortimer does get some insurance money, he will still have to shell out quite a bit of money to fully repair the home. He has more money than the 2,500 simoleons he had in The Sims 1, but not enough for a full repair of the home. Eventually, he and Bella decide it's best to sell the home, or what is left of it, and move elsewhere in Pleasantview, taking with them whatever is left that is of value. They build what they can with the money they have from the sale of the home, the insurance money, and some money from Cornelia, but Mortimer is not completely satisfied with the home. Maybe it is not properly furnished to his liking, maybe it is too small for what he is used to. Either way, in his mind, it is not a true Goth manor. Bella is fine with the home being a long-term renovation to expand upon as they save up the money, but Mortimer is not. He has a plan, but he doubts Bella will be on board with it. Luckily, however, Bella mysteriously disappeared. Strange. We'll get more into this later when we discuss the second half of this theory. Anyway, Mortimer realizes something. He has one parent left. One parent standing between him and a hefty inheritance. An inheritance that could buy him a much nicer mansion. So he heads over to his mother's home. Maybe it's her birthday, maybe it's Mother's Day, or maybe it's just a random day. But he tells her he'd like to cook her a nice dinner. Without her knowledge, he slips some sleeping pills into a drink and gives it to her. She goes to sleep. Mortimer starts cooking something, maybe some pork chops, but stops midway. He leaves the food on the stove or in the oven and goes home. Later that day, he gets some news. His mother's home has burned down, and she perished in the fire. The papers say she fell asleep while cooking, a fire broke out, and she burned in the fire, still asleep. Mortimer got a handsome inheritance and finished the renovation of 165 Sim Lane, and he is now the wealthiest Sim and and Pleasant View. As I stated, there are two parts to this theory. Now we know he got rid of his dear old mother for her money. Mr. Mortimer Goth is a murderer. But what happened to his wife Bella? Is it not a bit suspicious she disappeared not long before he carried out his plan? You can check out my Pleasant View video for the full rundown of the Bella Goth mystery, but basically, she was abducted by aliens. Now, something I got wrong in my Pleasant View video, sorry about that by the way, was that Sims cannot have positive memories of alien abduction through regular gameplay. Mortimer has a positive memory of Bella's abduction, which I found peculiar and had recalled reading was not possible through normal gameplay, but that is not the case. Sims with the knowledge aspiration, which Mortimer has, get a positive memory from witnessing an alien abduction. So technically that explains why he has a positive memory of Bella's abduction, but I still find it suspicious. I don't think this was a coincidence. I think this was an intentional choice by the developers to communicate something. As I said in my Pleasant View video, this positive memory is made even more suspicious that shortly after Bella's disappearance, Mortimer started dating Dina Caliente, a new resident in Pleasant View. Nina and her sister Dina recently moved to Pleasant View. Weirdly, they arrived in town the day before Bella's abduction and immediately visited the Goths. According to an interview with Bella, Dina was very openly and obviously trying to get with Mortimer. Also, even more suspiciously, the sisters are part alien. Their grandfather, Nestor Caliente, was abducted and impregnated. He gave birth to Flamenco Caliente, their father, who was an alien sim hybrid. All of this makes me think Bella's disappearance was a coordinated attack to get her out of the picture. So what's the story? Mortimer and Bella were going back and forth about the new house at 165 Sim Lane. Mortimer was frustrated with it not being an adequate home. He felt it was not an adequate goth manor. It was too small, not goth enough. He was ashamed. However, Bella was fine with it being a long-term renovation and didn't understand his complaints. It wasn't like they could do anything about it. Where would they conjure up the money from? Mortimer had already come up with his plan to kill his mother, but he knew Bella would never be on board. Even if he tried to do it behind her back, he knew she'd find it suspicious if, so shortly after they'd been arguing about money, his mother suddenly died and he inherited a huge sum of money. When the Caliente sisters arrived, they noticed some tension between the two. Dina approached Mortimer and managed to get him to confess his unhappiness. He did not immediately tell her about the murder plot, of course. However, after gaining his trust through her charm and being hot, he told her of his plan. She was of course intrigued and offered to help him. Together, they coordinated to have Bella abducted by aliens. Dina suggested murder, but Mortimer did not want that. He still loved her and she was the mother of his children. He just needed her out of the picture, not dead. Perhaps she could start anew elsewhere, on another planet or wherever she may end up. The next day, she was swept up into a spaceship, never to be seen again, in Pleasant View at least. So, after she is out of the way, Mortimer kills his mother with the help of Dina. With the help of a friend in the medicine career, she is able to make sure Cornelia's autopsy does not mention the sleeping pills in her system. Mortimer now has the home he so desperately desired, but he begins to feel guilty. He's a wealthy man with the lavish house he always wanted, but at what cost? He hangs a photo of his beloved Bella over his bed as a daily reminder of what he did. Dina takes his grief and weakness as an opportunity to swoop in and have him for herself, likely in the hopes of marrying him, waiting for him to kick the bucket, or perhaps handle him herself so that she and Nina can get some nice cash. So that is my little theory. A bit dumb, I know, but it was fun to come up with. I slowly came up with this theory as I was researching for my Goth Manor and Pleasant View videos. Let me know what you think of it down below in the comments if you have any other alternative theories, maybe any adjustments to this theory. Also, do you guys have any nutty theories of your own? I'm considering doing a series of ridiculous theories like these, so let me know what your theories are. So anyway, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, of course. Next week will be my Twin Brook deep dive video, so I hope to see you there. Bye bye!